welcome to Talkward. I'm Marty Dundix, editor-in-chief of Weekly Humorous Magazine, and this is Talkward, a fun little show where professionally funny people come to tell cringeworthy stories. My guest today is Tom McCaffrey. Tom is a comedian and writer in New York City. He has been doing stand-up comedy all over New York and all over the country for a long time, right, Tom?
Yeah, a couple weeks.
So welcome to Talkward.
About 18 years.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming in today. 18 years, Tom. That's a long time.
Yeah. Can I plug my stuff?
Oh, we're going to talk nothing about your stuff. No,
okay.
Nothing else but your stuff. You just did the Guaranteed Delivery comedy show that Weekly Humorous does once a month down at Wall Street. And that was fun. That was on Wednesday.
That was.
In addition, you've been doing stand-up comedy, for 18 years.
Yeah.
You have
some years more than others.
You have a popular podcast called Last Exit to Brooklyn.
That's true, yeah.
And how long have you been doing that for?
I think 4 years now, maybe 5.
How many episodes is 5 years of shows?
Jeez, I have no idea. We were doing it weekly for a while when I first started, like the first couple of years, and then I had a year where I was very sporadic with it, and I wasn't keeping it up weekly, and then I was doing it maybe monthly, and then now the last 2 years, it's pretty much back to weekly. So, every now and then we'll take a week off.
Do you have a co-host?
Yes, the comedian Eric Bronstein.
Okay.
He usually hosts it with me. Sometimes he's not there, and I'll have a guest, and then comedian Molly Heckerling has been co-hosting a lot lately.
Can you have me on as a substitute person at some point?
If you want to, yeah.
Yes, I love hearing myself speak.
Okay, cool.
All the time.
Yeah, I was going to ask you when we were done.
Well, you can ask me now.
Don't get too excited.
I'm very flattered.
It's not that fun.
Where is the show recorded?
I do it in my apartment.
Is it in front of a live audience at a big, beautiful theater?
We do it in front of a dead audience.
Okay.
We do it at the morgue.
Just a bunch of corpses.
Just in my apartment. I live down around Gramercy in Manhattan, so I just do it in my room.
Wow.
I was doing it somewhere else, but then I just was like, it's a lot easier I have like a pretty big room, and my apartment's, it's pretty nice, and it's also very convenient for people to get to. It's kind of like in the middle of Manhattan, you know what I mean?
Yeah, Gramercy is in you in the 30s? Or
in the 20s, yeah.
By that fancy secret park that only people with a key can get into?
Yeah, I'm like 2 blocks away from there.
Yeah.
I'm not like in Gramercy Park, but I'm like right outside that neighborhood. But I've never, I grew up in that neighborhood. I've never been in that park.
You grew up in that neighborhood?
I did, yeah.
Ooh.
I know, look at me.
Quite the...
This is back in the 80s when it was like not as many people lived here. And
quite the Manhattanite.
Yeah, it's really funny when I tell people I'm from New York, and then it's funny.
You're a true New Yorker.
Yeah, because I always have that conversation. Like, it's rare.
Yeah.
Because people will be like, oh, I grew up in New York, and they'll be like, where? And they'll be like, well, like Trenton, New Jersey.
Right,
and
commuters.
They'll be like, but I used to go there a lot.
NYC area.
And then so I'll be like, I'm from New York City, and they'll be like, I can always tell they're a little like reticent, they're like, where? And I'm like, Manhattan, you heard of it?
If you're like a New York kid, that means all kinds. There's a connotation where it's like, oh, what, private school? Oh, this kid's, an Upper Easter or an Upper Wester, or, and then you think about all the kid. You think, what was the TV show on the CW that glamorized the high school?
Was it Gossip Girl? Was it
Gossip Girl? Yeah,
is that what it is?
Yeah. So you live the Gossip Girl lifestyle,
pretty much. That's pretty much based on my life. Wasn't that when was that out? Like in the thousands?
I think. What are they? I saw it. I was reading. Maybe I was reading the Ronan Farrell New Yorker article. I think about Les Moonves, but he's been doing a lot of reporting. And when they discuss things that happened in time now in print, the 2000s are the aughts.
Right.
Have you noticed that?
I have, yes. And I've never called it that. I always call it the thousands.
I say the thousands.
I don't know what to call it.
Aughts.
What is it now? The tens? We're starting over because it's going to be the 20s again soon, right?
It's going to be in the 20s. Yeah.
The 2020s?
It's going to be like the teens. Right now we're in the teens.
Are people going to call it that? I guess it is called the aughts.
It's the aughts.
What a horrible...
Yeah.
But I guess that is what you'd call it, right?
I guess, I didn't know that. I'm not smart
The O's
at the stuff. I don't
even think it's smart. I think it's just
It's languagey.
It's only been 8 years since it, so
I have no idea how they do that kind of stuff.
But it is funny, like, saying I'm from Manhattan because, like, it always sounds. People are like, oh, where in New York? I'm like, Manhattan. They're like, oh, like people always have that reaction. It is funny. I remember I knew a comedian for years, and then he was like, he found out I was from Manhattan. He was like, you're from Manhattan? I was like, yeah. And I knew this guy for like 7 years. He's like, wow, that like really like bumps up my opinion of you. And I guess it just sounds cool or something. And then
it does. I mean, being from Brooklyn or Queens, that ain't cool. I mean, obviously Staten Island, but I mean, I live in Park Slope. It's nice,
right?
But it's not going to impress the way that's saying, "Oh, well, you know, I live in Manhattan."
Right.
You know.
And then
you're on like these dating apps or whatever, and people won't even go out with you unless you live in Manhattan, or the profile will say Manhattan only.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow! I thought Brooklyn was like cool now, though.
It is. It's cool to a type.
Yeah,
but
I mean, it's
also,
just as expensive.
Or more. I mean, where I am, it's all families, so it's like where I am, it's not popular unless you are already married with a child and a dog.
Where I live, it's all broken families. It's people who left their families in Brooklyn once they start making money.
Mm-hmm.
But
they see their kids on weekends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I lived in Brooklyn for a little bit. I kind of prefer it.
Where'd you live in Brooklyn?
I lived in Park Slope for a little bit, or right outside Park Slope, like Windsor Terrace.
Windsor Terrace, okay.
And then I lived in Greenpoint, which I liked Greenpoint a lot.
Greenpoint's nice. It's nice now because they have this ferry system that connects everything together really easy.
Yeah.
Before, to get to Greenpoint, like Paulie G's Pizza, which is a great pizza place in Greenpoint. I don't know if you've been there, but it's super. But it's a pain in the ass to get there on like the G.
That was the thing about it. Yeah, the G was the only good thing about it was I was close enough to the L where if you were having a problem with the G, you could walk. It was like almost a 15-minute walk from the Bedford stop.
But they're shutting that L down.
Are they? Jeez.
You heard about that. Obviously.
I did,
but you don't care because you're in Manhattan.
That's the thing is when you're like in Manhattan, you're very like, and I do remember growing up and like,
and you could walk in. I mean, you can literally from Gramercy, and nothing's that much of a trek unless you're talking like 70s, 90s. But
the West Side,
yeah.
Like when I have to go to like do a comedy club on the West Side, I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
I'm like, why isn't it here?
Everything has to be right there.
And I think it's like even in my voice, you can tell like from Manhattan because I'm like snobby. But I'm really not snobby, but I sound snobby, right?
You do sound.
I have a weird voice.
Yeah. You're kind of affluent, jerky. Now that I know that you're in Gramercy, I'm just going to pigeonhole you there.
It must have been those gold-plated toilet bowls in our apartment that did it.
That's what did it.
And those people bringing me everything.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't feel like I was spoiled, but like as I grow up, I'm like, I think I was a little spoiled.
Do you have siblings that you grew up with?
I have two older sisters, and like they like are rich, and they just kind of like.
Do they live in Manhattan also?
One of them does. One of them lives in Texas.
Okay.
And they just kind of like when I see them, they're like just giving me money and stuff.
That's great. I'd like to meet them. They can give me some money.
Yeah.
So you're the baby of the family, so they take care of you. I'm the youngest of two sisters also.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Do you experience that where they take care of you?
I experience where they think of me as, someone who needs to be taken care of.
Well, it's so weird because
I mean, I think they're if I were to say I need help in some way, they are willing to help me.
Right.
I'm the younger brother that isn't the type A personality.
Right.
Making the.
Do you think that affected how you deal with women a lot as you've? Because I think it has with me.
I feel like deal with women or how I view women. I
both,
was in
because I mean that kind of how you view would kind of dictate how. Well,
I mean, I think positively, I respect women a lot, and I always sort of put them up on a pedestal because women always were more in charge.
Oh, really?
Than me.
Okay.
Yeah. So I always kind of think if there's something that
they're
you
the
wanna...
ones always paying for things. That I think that's a weird thing I have. Is I have this idea of women like they should be the ones like
footing the bill,
paying and
yeah?
stuff.
Well,
I mean, not really, but like I've had experience with women where like now, especially with my sisters. I mean, I'm kind of kidding. Like I don't go out and expect them to, but I also don't.
but you're
take
hoping.
I'm not hoping, but I don't take the view of like, hey, I'm supposed to like pay for everything. Hey, don't worry, baby, I got this. And I always had a problem with the whole like ring getting married thing, where the whole ritual of I have to pay a lot of money for a ring, and like here's this really expensive ring, please, like, because I was always like, well, what do I get? And I was talking to a woman, they're like, well, you get the woman, and I'm like, but they're getting me too. Like, how come I'm not enough?
Am I assuming that you're single?
Yeah, I am single.
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
But I mean, I've been in relationships.
Good.
And I've been, it's not like women won't go out with me. A lot of times it's me who's like freaked out by it.
Well, it's commitment.
Are you single?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not shining a light on you for being single. I'm very single. But that's also because maybe we've been spoiled by the women in our lives. It's hard to find people who are willing to ignore all the huge things wrong with us and still love us. That's the thing.
All the things wrong with you?
Yeah.
Or not me? Not me.
Obviously.
Nothing's wrong with me.
Very wrong.
Right.
But yeah, it's tough to find. I think if you have a women in your life that love you unconditionally because they've always had to and you've been used to that.
Right. So when you go out with women.
Looking for that now, it's like, well, everyone else in my family who's a woman thinks I'm wonderful.
Right,
but
right.
To a non-family member who hasn't been with you for your entire life.
I think it's a problem.
Not quite the prize.
I think it's a problem I've had with women in my life where, like, if a woman isn't into me, I'm like, it amazes me. Like, I literally have that attitude. I'm like, what? I don't understand. Like, what exactly do you think?
I'm the opposite. I'm kind of like, I'm shocked and amazed when they are into me.
But I have that too. It's a weird thing. I have like a weird, like, I'm very confident, but I'm also really insecure. But I go back and forth.
Is that a comedian thing?
I think it is, but I think a lot of comedians aren't that confident, especially when it comes to women. I think a lot of comedians are very
I feel like a lot
women.
of comedians they seem to be only confident when they're on stage with a microphone in front of a bunch of strangers.
Yeah. I have that a little bit,
that's
too.
Where the power comes from. Like, the power comes from being able to do that, and I think that it's an amazing skill that I think people don't really respect until they get up on stage and they realize that it's really hard.
Right.
Like, just even getting up on stage to introduce you all is scary for me.
Right. No, I do have that where I'm confident up there, but I'm also not confident up there. I mean, like, it's, every time I go up, I'm very afraid. Because that's the thing about comedy. You never know how it's going to go. You can kill for, like, 20 shows in a row, but, every show is its own beast. So it's kind of...
Isn't that terrifying?
Yes. But I think you have to be okay with it.
Yeah.
Like, after a while, where you have to just... When I'm at my best is when I go up not worrying about...
Yeah.
It's a very zen kind of thing where you're like, well, I mean, if they don't laugh, they don't laugh. When I'm at my worst is I'm like, I have to kill.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they can, like...
Is that when there's a certain amount of pressure because of who is in the audience? Maybe it's a particular type of show where
who's in the audience, if it's like an important show, if it's like a big show. Like, I did a show recently, like Bill Burr and Seinfeld were there, and I mean, that's a show where I wasn't like, I don't care how I do,
right.
But it was good because I was able to not freak myself out, and I actually did really well.
Where was that?
It was at West Side Comedy Club. This was like 4 months ago, but I mean, those were like, I mean, one of them is like arguably the best comedian out there right now.
Yeah.
And then one of them is just one of the most iconic, not even comedian, but just celebrity in the world. I mean, I've seen that guy, Seinfeld, I've seen in my house every day for the last 18 years, so he's my roommate.
That's why people don't mind going to your house to do the podcast.
He keeps breaking into my house.
What's the deal with that? That's funny.
But I never thought it, because the two times I was the most starstruck were Ted Danson and Seinfeld.
Ted Danson? Definitely.
Because, and I'm not like a huge Ted Danson guy, but it was when Cheers was so huge.
Yeah.
And I just meeting him and having someone like that's on your TV every day for like years, and they're looking at you and saying things to you. You're like, oh my God. So yeah,
it's like having a private episode of Cheers in my face.
It is kind of like Seinfeld was like, "Hi, how are you?" And I was like, "Oh my God."
That's a huge show. So they were just in the audience?
Well, Bill Burr was booked.
So was he was the headliner.
Yeah, and I don't know that they advertised it. My friend Eric Bronstein, I think, produced the show. The guy who does a podcast with me, and he asked me, and this was actually the best thing about it. He asked me at the last minute to do it. Like, he asked me like an hour before it started.
You didn't spend 2 weeks, 3 weeks freaking out.
Right.
That's much better.
And Bill Burr was a headliner, and then Seinfeld like lives around there. Apparently, he just went to like hang out, and then he asked if he could go on. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, but like that is, and I was like, oh, please don't, because I've psyched myself out of shows so many times.
Yeah,
I feel like that's the big battle with stand up is like you have to go into every set kind of like who cares, almost like an open mic, like who cares,
right?
Because it's weird. It's like you have to be loose in the least loose situation.
Do you have like a relaxation method that you do before a show to kind of like chill out to make sure that you don't psych yourself out?
Drinking.
Is it just drinking?
No. I feel like I used to do that more. I don't like to drink that much before I go on. Maybe like 1 or 2 drinks. I meditate, but not right before I go on. But sometimes I'll try and do like a breathing exercise. But
because you've been doing stand up for 18 years.
Yeah.
Which means you probably started in New York City doing stand-up because you lived here.
I did. I started here, but I didn't do it here that long, and then I moved to L.A. for a couple of years.
Okay. You did that for professional reasons?
I did it. I mean, I did it because I grew up here, and I was very tired of Manhattan, and I just had always... I don't know. I just kind of did it as like a young thing.
How was L.A.? Did you like L.A.?
I liked it okay at that point, and I basically kind of started doing stand-up there. That's where I got into stand-up.
Okay. So you didn't do stand-up as a prodigy high school stand-up kid the way that some of these guys are now.
No.
Because like Nico White.
I know who that.
Nico White did the Guaranteed Delivery show a couple of shows ago. He was one of these he's like a stand-up savant almost, where he started like
when he was 0.
Yeah.
Did he start in high school?
I feel like he was like a high school type stand-up who had already done so much joke crafting.
Right.
So his stage presence is incredible. And he's like 20, 22.
Is he really?
Yeah.
God.
He's really, really good. And then I'm thinking Pete
Davidson. Right.
From SNL had started very young. And
he started at like 16 or 17.
He did the accelerated comedy program.
I mean, that's the way to do it. The thing is, though, like when I was like, I did stand up when I was in college.
Where'd you go to college?
SMU in Dallas, Texas. My mom was from Dallas, and
okay.
I mean, it was a weird. They gave me a scholarship.
It's quite a difference from Manhattan.
It was. I'd gone to Dallas a lot growing up, so I thought I knew it. But then when I was, it's different when you visit and then you move somewhere, and you're like, oh, this is like. And then also by the time I moved there, I was like a 17-year-old kid from Manhattan who was into rap music, and like that's not what that was like there.
No.
This was before everyone liked rap music.
You were ahead of the curve.
And
what a trendsetter you were.
Yeah, I kind of was. I was
white kid from Manhattan going to Texas to be really into rap music.
Yeah. Well, I didn't go there, but I was just very into it, and people were like, "What is this shit?" And I was like, "Oh, you don't get it." So I took an acting class, and then one of the assignments was to do stand-up. And I wasn't a huge stand-up fan, but I liked it. I was always funny young, and people were like, "You should be a comedian." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess." And I was really into movies, so I was like, I don't know if I was like, maybe I'll be like Bill Murray or something.
Yeah.
I wasn't really like stand-up. Like I wasn't like, oh my god, I love stand-up. I liked comedy,
right,
and people who were funny and like in movies. So I in the acting class I did stand up, and my teacher was like, "You should do stand up. Like I'll take you to like open mics in Dallas, and I went to. I think I went to 2. One time I didn't get up, and one time I got up, and I hated it. It was so scary.
Yeah.
And then I didn't. I think I was 20, and then I didn't do it again until I was like 26 in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I moved to LA, and I was kind of like, still. I feel like when I started stand up, it wasn't like popular. You know what I mean? Like, no, it wasn't like a big thing. Like 1999, 2000, it wasn't like a boom. I felt like it wasn't like the reason I finally decided to do it again is because I saw Louis C.K. on Conan.
Okay.
And he wasn't, I didn't know who he was. I hadn't seen stand up in years. And I was like, oh my God, like this is fucking hilarious. I felt like stand up was different.
Yeah, well, there was a definite style change, I think, from the 80s type stand-up to what people were doing more. I mean, Seinfeld got really big for observational stuff, but then what Louis C.K. was doing, where it was more almost like a Larry David, where it was more like, not yammering on, but like
it was
chattering. You know?
It wasn't,
but
right, it wasn't polished.
Right, it wasn't just like a setup punchline.
It sounded like he was just saying it.
Yeah.
That's what's so brilliant about his comedy. I guess that's what really resonated.
Yeah.
He was very like, he's so smart, but he says everything so simple and basic, almost like he's not smart.
Yeah.
Like the way he describes things, like
Yeah.
he kind of describes them badly.
Right.
But that's kind of part of the joke.
Yeah.
And so I remember having that exact moment. I was like, this is what stand-up is? I was like, oh, I can do that.
Right.
And I mean, I couldn't do what he was doing. It's that thing of, oh, that looks really easy. But I went to LA and I didn't really know anyone. I was doing open mics all the time and people were kind of supportive of me and I got more into it. So, yeah.
So how long did it take you to get from the open mics to the more of the polished stuff where you're doing shows with Seinfeld and Bill Burr there?
Well,
this is 18 years of work.
Yeah, how did that happen? No, I just, did it a couple of times.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it feels. Like, I just did it for a little bit. I mean, so I was doing open mics in LA, and when I was there, it was like, this is around 2000, 2001. There's not a lot of places to get up out there. And
in LA,
and so there's so many famous people, it's hard to get stage time, especially if you're nobody. And so
I've noticed that, like, if you go out, and I usually stay like in the Sunset Strip area where the Comedy Store is and the Laugh Factory is.
Right.
You go there every night, and there's famous people just like hanging out. So I would imagine in up and comer, it's tough to get on in the improvs like down the street. Like, where do you go? You know?
So the open mic circuit was kind of its own circuit because, and then that was when the alternative scene was kind of becoming a thing. I mean, it was already a thing, but.
Are you an alternative comic?
Well, I kind of got dubbed that for a little while. So what happened was I would go to like Largo a lot, and I would watch shows there, and that was where the alternative, like Mr. Show, had just been canceled. And I mean, I had seen Mr. Show, and I was like, oh, that's really funny. And then I went there, and like David Cross and Bob Odenkirk were there, and like I was like, oh, I like that show. But then that's when I realized there was like a diehard scene of comedy fans, and like Louis C.K. would go on, and it was very unpolished and off the, they would bring their notes up, and I really liked that. And so I felt like that kind of, I incorporated that a little bit into my style. I was more into that kind of presence, almost kind of like, oh, I don't even know what I'm saying. And then be like, man, this guy's so funny. He's just saying things. So then when I was in LA for a couple years, and then I was like, I'm not going to become really good here, so I better go back to New York. That's a better place to start. And I came here, and the good thing is that no one knew me here, and I was already pretty good because I'd done it like 2.5 years, and so I did. What happened was I did a contest with Comedy Central, and I won the contest.
How many comics?
Well, there were like. You had to submit, and then they had semifinals in 10 different cities, and I did the one in New York, and I think there were like 10 people on that show.
Anybody that kept doing it?
On the New York one, yeah, there's a guy named Dave Siegel who was on it.
I know Dave Siegel.
Do you know Dave?
Yeah.
He actually lives right down the street from me. He like writes for some show now.
Yeah.
And then Well, so then the 10 semifinalists who won from the 10 different cities we all went to LA for the final show.
And you had like a fist fight.
Yeah, of course. We had like a cage match. I mean, that probably would have been less
that would have been fun.
Stressful.
Yeah, probably.
But in that one, there were like Kyle Kinane was in it.
Okay.
And so I came in, the top 4 got a TV spot on Comedy Central. And so that was my first TV thing. And like, I had been doing comedy like 3.5 years. And that sort of was my, I mean, it kind of put me on the map a little bit. And then I started getting a lot of things from that. Like Comedy Central was like aware of me. Who else was on that? Chris Fairbanks came in second. Do you know who that is? He's an LA guy. He's done a lot of stuff. And you know Kyle Kinane is, right? I mean, he's huge. And he didn't even place, Kyle Kinane. And then Comedy Central after that like called me to do a bunch of stuff.
That's nice.
Yeah, it was great. It was good. And then I kept doing it, and but the problem was like, and I realize this now. I feel like I tried to move away from it at times, and unfortunately, it's like an addiction. Like I wish I could. I literally feel like I wish I could stop, but it's like I finally realized I can't stop doing it.
And especially in New York, there's so many different mics you could do on like a given night.
Yeah.
If you have like an itch and you're like, I got to get on stage and talk to random strangers with a microphone, you can scratch that itch like any night of the week if you really, really want to go to a place.
Some shows will be worse than others,
yeah.
But it's funny. I think in the last 2 years, I finally had that realization. I was like, well, I guess I just have, I'm just going to have to keep doing it. Because I talked to Jim Gaffigan once, and he said that. He was like, comedians, like, people don't understand, like, they have to do stand-up.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's like, I was talking about this like with Louis C.K. I don't know, he must be going insane.
Yeah. That's why he keeps showing up at shows now.
Has he done it again?
You didn't hear about this?
I know he did the first one, but he did it again.
I don't know if he did it since
I mean,
then.
I know that he did, but I was like, Jesus, what, they're not really, he's not having an easy time. And I mean, and he was, he's great at it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is, it's kind of like, if you're a heroin addict and they're like, no, you can't, you do heroin, and everyone like shames you for doing heroin. I guess that does that. But the world, like,
he needs
won't
like
let you do
he needs like a methadone to like wean for a little while,
right?
Like maybe like a safe space, like a closed comedy club that's like not a real comedy club. It's like a fake comedy club where it's just like people
like
that
a comedy
have been approved.
sober house.
Yes, exactly.
Like just like 5 people he can be funny in front
right.
of.
He just needs someone to talk at.
Right.
Just get a bunch of extras, put them in front of him, give him some drinks, and give him like a fake comedy club to act out.
He must be driving his girlfriend crazy, just like doing bits all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Today I was at the post office, and you ever did it? Like, oh God, just get on stage.
They could do that with a bunch of people who just are like put Matt Lauer and Charlie Rose and Louis C.K. all into like a fake. Maybe that's a reality show where it's like another reality where they can do their thing, but like off the grid,
right?
And maybe we can all we can watch it on a closed circuit like TV, and we can be judging them,
right?
And maybe they can redeem themselves on this television show, and as we're voting them up or down, they get to leave this confined reality Big Brother type house.
Yeah,
this is a.
I feel like you've thought about that.
But this
really?
is great. Let's do this.
They should do a They should do a Purge movie where you like just can only kill like Me Too people.
This is great. We need to turn this all into a reality show, and that's how these guys. Because everyone's like it's Me Too soon, right? So now it's this whole thing where people are trying to get back in the limelight. They want their jobs back. And everyone's like, well, you don't get to have your job back yet because you haven't redeemed yourself yet.
Right.
And everyone's like, well, how do I redeem myself? And everyone's like, I don't know, right? Because no one knows. No one knows what the answer is. They just know that you wronged me, and now you're going to get shamed, and now something's going to happen, but we don't know what that thing is.
I guess that's
right?
what prison represents.
Yeah, exactly. But
with
they're
criminals,
not,
like, okay, now,
right? But they're not.
No,
going
I know,
but
they're not.
They need that.
They're going to showbiz prison.
They need showbiz prison, and what is that? It's like Big Brother, but for them.
Right.
So that's what this is. And we could put Les Moonves in there. Very apropos.
Right.
So it could be hosted by Julie Chen, which will be awkward at first because it's his wife. That's what we do.
Do you think she's going to like, sorry to get off that, but
that's fine. This is very
what has she done? She's on that show, The Talk.
Yeah.
So she's just going to go back on the show and not mention.
I don't know.
I mean, what do you do? Like, hey, so what happened last week?
We're gonna call it the "Let's Not Talk About
Right,
It."
right.
I don't know.
So what do you think she's going to stay with him? I mean, there had to have been red flags,
there
right?
Had to have been. I mean, no one.
Of course, that guy's a dick. You know, it's just so obvious to me.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the trade-off. These women marry these powerful, rich guys, but then they just turn out they're just raping everyone. But you're like, well, I guess
I don't know.
You know,
I mean, this might have been an occurrence that happened before they got married. I don't know how long they've been married for.
I think apparently it did, but still, it's kind of like, hey, honey, like, no, I stopped raping people like after we got married. You know what I mean? Like, okay,
I gave it up.
As long as you stop raping, as long as you raped in the past a little bit. And I mean, the thing with him, I don't know how many women have come out, but it's a lot of women, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was an alarming amount for the first article that came out. This is something I was amazed that things didn't happen to him right after that article. This article went off, and then you didn't really hear anything, and I was surprised.
No, it went away fast.
It went away very quickly.
Yeah,
did
Ronan Farrow write that one or the second one?
He wrote both.
Oh, he did.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he wrote the first one, and I thought that the dominoes would fall from that, and then they didn't. They didn't fall at all. Like the Charlie Rose thing happened in 45 minutes. This guy, everything happened, right? And then for Les Moonves, nothing happened. Nothing happened. And I read all the article, and it was very compelling, and all the interviews were very detailed, and it seemed, obviously very legitimate.
Was it sexual assault, some of them?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was.
Is it because people didn't really know who he was?
I don't know. I mean, people knew who he was.
I mean, I knew the name. I didn't really know what I kind of knew. But
and the accounts are pretty violent.
Well, this second one.
You read the second one.
I guess I kind of heard about the first one, and I read the second one. I mean, he was the second one, he's forcing them to. I mean, I don't know what happened in the first one.
Similar step happened in the first one.
And I mean, I don't know. Once it gets to a certain amount of women, it's just all right, dude. You probably did it.
Well, he definitely did it.
Also, that guy, I don't know. I just don't find it unbelievable that guys like that are doing stuff like that. You know what I mean?
No.
These powerful Hollywood players,
it took a long time for it to come out. Which is, it's been for some of these, it's 20 years. Oh, yeah. But it's just been so then when the culmination of something coming out in an article, it's all the things added together. It's oh my goodness, this is This is more than a pattern. It's just this is a bad guy.
So do you think I think what must have happened a lot, because in that industry, it's a very if you have power and influence, you can just kind of do whatever you want. So you kind of lose yourself a little bit. So
yeah,
I guess when you hear a lot of interviews with famous dudes and stuff, and they'll always talk about the trappings of fame. I think they're talking about stuff like that. I think not that they're hey, the trappings are I have to stop myself from raping people, but I think it's kind of you really have to make a conscious effort to treat people a certain way, even though everyone's you can do whatever you want. You know what I mean? Because I feel that's when.
Well, I mean, the people that seem to be the victims in all this, I think that they tell people and then just no one does anything about it.
Which I get, because there's kind of
no one believes them.
Because I think it's kind of people are well, what are you gonna do? What can you do? This guy owns the world. You know what I mean? Yeah. They're just gonna destroy you. And I'm sure that's happened in the past.
It seems like that's what he did. He kept these people out of their jobs or ruined their jobs or got them fired.
Yeah, that's the big thing that is real. It's all horrible, but I mean, when they would go after them personally and ruin any chance of a livelihood, that's a pretty... And I think that was why a lot of people... The Louis C.K. thing, when a lot of people are well, whatever, he just he asked them. It's well, first of all, I mean, that's pretty bad and a sex crime, but also when they sort of drove these people out of the business, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's, you know what I mean? That's pretty unforgivable, you know what I mean? Because it's a rough business. It's hard to get a break.
Yeah.
And then
they have to put up. I mean, comedy is hard enough to not have to deal with people like that who are making it even harder on a whole different level of hard. A whole different awkward, strange. I can't believe I even have to deal with this. Which is, I mean, for just two boring white guys, do you even have to like put your head or your mindset into like being a woman who's? Because I mean, you
being a woman where guys are just like jerking off in front of you,
or just like or not even that, but just like if someone just looking at you all the time,
right?
You know, like it bothers if someone's like looking at you or me. It's just like, well, why are they looking at me? Like I don't have people just like checking me out,
right?
But like if I was a woman getting like stared at by strangers all the time, I think I would lose it in like a day. Like, why are all these people looking at me? Why are you objectifying me like that?
I have a funny story.
It would really strange. Yeah. It'd be strange. What's your story?
I have a very funny story that's, on topic because you talk about like kind of awkward stories, right?
Yes, please give me a talk.
This is a funny story. This is actually, I think I've done a storytelling show like twice in my life because I'm more into like getting laughs. I get uncomfortable just telling stories in front of an audience. Yeah. So I was at, that Barnes & Noble in Union Square?
Yeah, the big one.
Yeah, I was on the escalator coming down. I was at the top of the escalator, and there was like a guy at the bottom, like leaning against the escalator, like kind of reading a book or a magazine. And he was really skinny, had like long hair with like weird blonde highlights, like patches of blonde, and in his hair that was like brunette,
chunky,
like done in a
chunks.
weird way.
Okay.
And he was wearing this like he was wearing all white. He was really skinny, and he was just like staring at me. And I was at the top, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess that guy's like looking at me. And then like I looked away, and then I looked again. He just kept staring at me, and I was like getting closer down the escalator, and I was like, when I go by this guy, I'm just gonna like shoot him a look that's like, dude, stop like checking me out, you know what I mean? And this is only like 10 seconds of my life that this happened,
and it bothered you that much that he was looking.
I mean, it didn't really like, but I was just like, he was staring at me, like he wouldn't stop staring at me, and I was like, oh my god. And so I get right to the bottom, and I'm like and I turn so my face is right at his face, and I like shoot him this look, and I look, and it's Jared Leto. And I was like, oh my god, like, and I started leaving, and I was like, wait a minute, did that really just happen? I got to go back and make sure that's who that was. And I turn around to go back, and he was now in another place looking at me again.
And did this flatter you now that you knew that it was Jared Leto?
Yeah, I was saying like
very attractive man.
Well, I was saying
famous actor.
Yeah,
hey,
and then
not so bad.
A girl blew me off like a month later, like where like. I had this weird thing where this girl like really blew me off badly, and I had her number, and I wanted to text her and be like, actually, the girl had blown me off like a month before that, and I wanted to text her and be like, hey, like you blew me off, but like guess who like was into me? And I do feel like that was like an impressive. I feel like that's more flattering than like being checked out by like most women. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so.
And then I saw an interview with him like 6 months later where he kind of made a comment about being gay. And I think he's straight, but I think it's not the craziest thing that Jared Leto might be bisexual. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And
sexual fluidity.
And you know how like people be like, hey, I saw this celebrity and they were checking me out, and you're kind of like, yeah, whatever. This was real because I didn't know it was him until well after. You know what I mean? Like it was happening. It really was a huge ego boost.
Yeah, hey,
I like him. I think he's really like talented.
Attention is attention,
I'm not gay, but I feel like I would sleep with him just for the story.
That would be a good story. That would boost your ego a lot.
Yeah, so that was kind of
that's an awkward story. I'll take it.
Yeah, it was interesting.
That made you kind of walk with better posture probably for the rest of the day, having Jared.
I just couldn't believe it. I was like. Oh my God, it's Jared Leto.
I like how enamored you are that he was checking you out that much. It's nice.
Well, I mean, it's weird, though. You know what I mean?
Cap.
Like,
you were picked by Comedy Central as a up and coming, and also checked out by Jared Leto in Barnes & Noble.
Yeah,
that's a credit.
I'm trying to think if that's ever happened with like a famous female celebrity. Not really.
No.
Some girl who was in movies like started poking me on.
People don't do that anymore.
On Facebook. This was years ago.
Yeah,
and you know who it was? It was a girl who was married to Macaulay Culkin at one point.
Interesting.
I forgot her name, but she's an actress. Macaulay Culkin got married at like 17 to some girl, and for like a month, because they were 17. Yeah. It was that girl.
Okay.
So that was cool.
Was that the girl that was in the movie where he dies from the bee sting? Was that it? Was that a movie?
Is that My Girl?
Yes.
I didn't see that. So, isn't it amazing I know that?
Yeah.
Does he die from a bee sting?
I think so.
Oh.
Spoiler alert.
Jeez. Look, if you haven't seen My Girl by this point, like you're not going to see
probably
it.
not going to
No,
see
it's
it.
not her. It was she was in the movie Bully. Did you ever see that? It was like
No.
this movie from like 2001 that like Larry Clark. I think her name's Rachel Miner.
Okay.
Or yeah, and I just know that she was in Bully, and then I looked her up, and she was married to Macaulay Culkin. They were like went to high school together or something. So yeah, that was, and then something else happened where some woman. Rosario Dawson followed me on Twitter once.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I got really excited because I had a joke on Twitter, and Corin Nemec liked it. And
Corky Nemec?
Corin Nemec.
I know who that is. Parker Lewis.
Played Parker Lewis, and Parker Lewis can't lose on Fox.
Yeah.
And I was pretty flattered.
Do most people not know that when you say who he is?
I don't tell that story very often. I think I've told it maybe, counting this, 2 times.
Right.
And both times, well, you knew who he was. So I'm at 50% where people actually know what I'm talking about. For me, it mattered because I loved Parker Lewis growing up. I thought that was a great show.
Yeah, it wasn't on that long, right?
Maybe like 2 seasons.
I think it was like 2 seasons. It didn't really catch on.
It was
and
random.
then he kind of like didn't.
I don't think he was ever in anything again.
He was, but he never really, he was just kind of one of those guys that never caught on.
Yeah.
He was. I knew him from a movie that he had done when he was young, like a TV movie.
Okay.
That's how I remember him.
Because in Parker Lewis Can't Lose, we had Kubiak, which was the Eat Now guy. He goes, Eat Now? And then they put like a live fish in his mouth.
Right.
And then he was on ER years later.
Right.
And I only could see Kubiak whenever I see that guy in anything.
Yeah.
And he's probably a very good actor. But I'm always like, Kubiak.
It's funny. Do you know who Royce da 5'9" is? He's a rapper. He raps with Eminem a lot.
Okay.
He came out with a song with Eminem like 4 months ago, and he references Kubiak.
Really?
Yeah, he goes, "I'm a cross between Parker Lewis and Kubiak."
What?
Isn't that hilarious?
That is hilarious.
I was like, "Oh my god."
That's like a kid growing. That's someone. I don't know how old you are, but
I'm 45.
Okay, then we're in the same. I'm 39.
Okay.
But I feel like we're in the same TV reference world.
Yeah.
Within like 10 years.
Definitely.
5 years. Definitely counts. People in the people.
I think I was a senior in high school when Parker Lewis was on. And actually, what happened was that came out the same year as 90210, and I feel like that kind of show, like won out because Parker Lewis was good. It was just so weird.
It was so random, and it broke all the rules of reality because there was a lot of stuff about it that was almost comic booky, where
it was very like
effecty.
It was very over the top.
Yeah.
It was shot like in a weird way, and everything was like kind of absurd almost.
Yeah, it was very absurd.
So 90210 was, and it was weird for like a teen show. I feel like it went over. So 90210 was like an easier show for teenagers. Like, Brandon is so cool. I mean, I liked 90210.
Right. But Parker Lewis was more almost it was a Ferris Bueller spinoff, basically, or ripoff.
Yeah, it was kind of.
So it's kind of like that guy that can do anything, and he's in high school, and he's got the schemes and the stuff and the friends and the
Yeah.
he's always got an angle.
And do you remember actually that same year they came out with the Ferris Bueller TV show?
Yeah, that failed immediately.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Yeah.
I think Jennifer Aniston was in it.
Yeah, she played Simone.
I think she might have played the sister.
Oh, the sister. I thought she played the girlfriend.
No, I don't think she did.
Okay.
I think she played
The Jennifer Grey.
The Jennifer Grey character.
Yeah.
I think she went to my high. I went to high school in Manhattan. She went there. She graduated.
Jennifer Aniston?
Yeah, she graduated right before I got there, though.
Oh.
I met her once.
Really? Did
Yeah.
you say, "Hey, I went to the same high school as you"?
No, what happened was she wasn't famous yet. I was with friends of mine from. I went to like LaGuardia. You know that school?
No.
It's like the performing arts school. So like,
like Fame?
yeah. So like famous people like go there. Like Nicki Minaj went there.
Okay.
Michael Che went there. And so I was with people from my class, and I think we had just graduated, and we were like at the South Street Seaport, and they were like, "Oh, that girl, that's Jen from we went to high school with her," because they were there when I wasn't there yet, and we went over to talk to her, and she was and she remembered them. She was like, "Hey," I remember she was super nice to them.
Huh.
And what's really funny is she was like, "Oh, I gotta go." She's like, "I'm on a first date with this guy. It's kind of weird. Like, I don't know. I'm like kind of nervous about it."
Yeah.
This is before Friends, but I always think it's funny. It's like I saw Jennifer
Was it
Aniston.
before Friends or also before Leprechaun?
It was like 91.
Okay.
So I think it was right before Leprechaun.
Man, I think Leprechaun was like her first movie. It was a horror movie. It was terrible.
I think she had just come from the set of Leprechaun when
probably.
we saw her.
Yeah.
She was dressed in all green.
The Leprechaun was the evil demonic. She was like a screaming woman.
Yeah, she wasn't the Leprechaun.
She was not the Leprechaun.
Warwick Davis.
Right, Warwick Davis.
Yeah, Willow.
Yeah.
No, I knew she probably wasn't the Leprechaun.
Yeah,
I never saw any of those. They didn't look good.
They're not good. They're bad. So what do you have coming up?
They did 9 of them.
You do your podcast. You do your stand-up comedy all the time. And you're gonna be published in Weekly Humorist this week.
I am?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
You're gonna be a new
It's
writer
this week. All right, sweet.
You wrote a hilarious article on basically mashup
movie
movies.
mashups. Yeah,
Very funny.
Thank you.
You're
Thanks
welcome.
for posting it.
Hey, no
or,
problem.
being about to post it. I'm doing some shows this week. I'm doing Broadway Comedy Club. I'm doing the Anthony Camilla show. Do you know what that is? It's on Compound Media. I'm doing that in like 5 days. I do that like he used to do with Artie Lang.
Yes,
But
I've seen it on Instagram.
Yeah. I don't think Artie's doing it anymore though.
No, I don't know.
Someone told me he wasn't. I'm doing that in like 6 days, and then that's about it. I'm just doing a bunch of shows. I'm kind of trying to get ready to. I want to record another album. I'm sort of doing the
and then also
legwork.
You had a movie come out called Adventures in Comedy.
Yes, I did.
And is that still available?
It is. That when it first came out, Comedy Dynamics distributed it, and they put it on. They put it on everything except Netflix, and Hulu is what they did the main push on. But I don't think it's on Hulu anymore. But it's on like Amazon, iTunes. And actually, like I think it might be playing at like another film festival, even though it came out a few years ago.
Okay.
Like came out, I mean, like online basically, which is how a lot of movies come out now. But because I know someone who works at a festival, and they asked me about the movie, and they were like, "You should," and I was like, "I can't submit it because I finished it like 3 years ago," and they're like, "No, this festival they don't care. It doesn't matter when you finish." So they were like, "You should try and put it out to even more festivals again," because it was in one when it came out.
Yeah.
And I think I'm gonna try and like push it more again, because someone was telling me that comedy now is becoming like stand-up is kind of more popular again. It's about me as a stand-up comic.
Right. It's like a documentary following you, right?
Like a fake documentary.
Okay.
It's like I kind of like it's supposed to be kind of like Spinal Tap, but with stand-up comedy.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not comparing it to Spinal Tap because that's like one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Spinal Tap?
Yeah.
Of course.
But and then this person was telling me like a lot of movies.
So is it scripted?
I wrote a script.
So it's like a docudrama. Docu-comedy drama.
I feel like it's kind of like, I mean, there's some serious parts because it's following, I kind of compared it to like, it's done in like Curb Your Enthusiasm style, where I'm playing me, but it's like, I'm in situations that I've like are similar to things I went through in my comedy career, but they're set up.
So it's like a dramatization of your past in comedy.
Yeah, and it's all, the whole plot is that I'm getting ready to record an album, and it's like my struggle.
And you have huge people in it.
Yeah, I got a lot of people, and so I got interviews with comedians to put throughout that kind of help the arc of it.
Like Jim Gaffigan,
Janine, and then Michael Che I got right before he got on Saturday Night Live. Margaret Cho, Aisha Tyler, Ari Shafir. Yeah, a lot of big people.
A lot of big people.
Yeah, I think it's funny. Like a lot of people told me they liked it.
I'm sure it's good. I will tell you that I like it when I watch it.
Have you seen it?
I haven't watched it.
Oh, when you okay.
I will watch it now
Okay.
that you've
And tell me you
sold
like
me.
it.
I will. I'm telling you in advance that I think it's great.
Even if you don't like it.
It's a fantastic movie. Everybody listening should check out Adventures in Comedy on Amazon,
Yeah, iTunes, Roku, all that stuff.
All those things. Your connected devices. You can watch it. Adventures in Comedy.
And maybe on Netflix. It won't. I'm hoping if it gets a little traction from these festivals.
Well, it seems like Netflix is like the next step for Netflix comedy is going to be like the 5 minutes.
I know.
Like, oh, this guy just did a great 10 minutes on Netflix special. It's like you can.
Have you watched that? The 15-minute ones?
Yeah. Like the lineup and the stand-ups and all that stuff. They're great. It's just like going to one of the shows that you are on every day in New York. So, I mean, I'm sure someone who doesn't get to go to New York comedy clubs all the time, I'm sure it's great. Like, I think it's it's great that you get to go and experience kind of what a comedy club is, where you get to see these comics come up and do 15 minutes, do 20 minutes, or whatever.
I did a show on Hulu that was kind of like that format in 2015, and it was the same. It was called Coming to the Stage. I think they still might do new Comedy Dynamics. Also produced it, and I think my set is like 15 minutes, and like I think all the people who do the episodes were only like 2 comedians. They had a bunch of episodes, and so it'd be a half hour, and so
And then when you do a show like that, do they buy that content from you, and you can't do that content anymore?
I think for like a certain amount of time.
Okay.
Like you sign a contract. Okay. But yeah, that's actually a good question.
You're like, I guess I can't do.
But
my
I'm a
set
lawyer
tomorrow.
too, so like
I didn't know you were a lawyer.
Yeah, I went to law school. So now I'm gonna have to use that.
What do you specialize in?
Intellectual property.
Really?
A little bit, yeah. That's kind of what I studied. And I'm working in that a little bit right now.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
You're so well rounded.
I know.
Tom McCaffrey.
I grew up in Manhattan.
You do it all.
I feel like I had to go to law school growing up in Manhattan.
By default, you just became a lawyer.
My dad was a lawyer, and I feel like I always was like wanted to say I was a lawyer.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it gets people off your back at like reunions.
Yeah.
Because like it's actually a cooler thing to say. Because like
you're not more proud to be a comedian than you are to be a lawyer.
I feel like saying you're a comedian sounds ridiculous. Like at a certain age, people are just like, still. Like, are you even allowed to do that anymore? But I had a thing recently where like I got into a fight with a guy and I yelled at him that I was a lawyer. And that sounded better than
he backed off.
He kind of did.
Yeah, yelling "I'm a comedian" in a heated moment does not do anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Like this guy kind of like hit. He didn't really hit me. He accidentally like hit me.
Yeah.
In a shitty like he was doing something like he was throwing something at me, and I was like, "Sir, you just assaulted me. I'm a lawyer." And he was like, "Oh, I don't care." But I couldn't. If I was a kid, I couldn't be like, "I'm a writer."
I'm gonna write mean things about you on a piece of paper,
right?
And everyone's gonna know about it.
Yeah, I'm gonna blog about this. I guess that is powerful nowadays if you have a lot of people.
Yeah, if people actually listen to what you actually blog
true.
about, that's true. Backtrack on that.
Yeah.
Well, fun.
Yeah. So.
People can follow you on. You do a lot of the Instagramming and the.
I do a little. Yeah, my Instagram is just at Tom McCaffrey 722, and then
why 722? Just to make it more complicated for everybody.
Because the other Tom McCaffrey was taken. I had to add numbers, and I just kind of like put in number.
What does 722 mean?
Nothing. I just was like.
It's not even 7. Your birthday.
No.
People can't even remember your birthday by looking at your weird Twitter handle.
No, the number 7. The number 7 is my birthday. I was born on August 7th, but 22 is just I just put 2 more numbers. I thought it might be easier to remember.
It's well thought out. And then you're on Instagram.
Well, and then Twitter. That is my Instagram. My Twitter is just at Tom McCaffrey.
Oh, okay. So you got that.
I got on Twitter really fast, but like I didn't do it until it became popular. Someone had told me about it, and I was like, all right. And
better get my name and then sit on it.
I didn't think anyone was going to be into it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's when I heard about it, I was like, what is this?
That's how I am with Snapchat. I'm waiting for it to fail so I never have to start one.
Yeah, I can't get it. I feel like Snapchat is not for me.
It's for
kids.
It's for kids. So I just have the Instagram and I have the Twitter and I'm on Facebook, but no one uses Facebook anymore.
Do they not? Is it?
I don't
know.
I mean, I just use it to kind of like I put things out there. I feel like people don't use it. I like Instagram personally.
I feel like that's becoming the thing, kind of, right?
I think it's just people just like pictures.
Yeah, I mean,
You
that's
know?
where we are now, not like reading
People
things.
like reading.
And people put these like I mean, Facebook is so annoying, and
Yeah.
I've been annoyed with it for years. People put these long posts that
Yeah.
are like, come on, I don't care.
I don't read any of that stuff.
You know, like things like, 10 years ago I moved to
Yeah.
Brooklyn, and like people will write the thing like, and I only had $38 in my pocket. I'm like, that's so weird. It's so rare that I know how much money I have in my pocket.
Yeah. I know when I have no money.
Right, like zero money.
I know when I have zero money.
But the fact that it's always such a weird number, I
Yeah.
had $130 in my pocket. I'm like, really? Like, why did you move to Brooklyn? That's not enough money.
Not enough money. That's said by someone who obviously grew up in Manhattan.
Right. But I mean, it's just like if I had $130 in my pocket, I wouldn't be like, oh, I'm going to Brooklyn. I'd be like, yeah, I'm not ready to go there yet.
You're like, I could just ask my sisters for some.
Right. I'm just going to stay in this apartment in Manhattan. I'm just going to go live in my sister's house.
Oh, older sisters, they're the best.
I know, thank God. It's kind of shitty though too, because like they're like really successful, so a little bit of it is like fun. But I mean, I feel like I get away with like
you don't have to be successful. You have older sisters who are successful,
right? And I was always the one doing like creative things,
Right.
and
Yeah.
I didn't have a clock of like I have to have kids,
right?
So it's good and bad because I mean, I'm like not young, but like they treat me like I'm like 12.
Right. Yeah.
So you have the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have the clock and I don't have the expectation, and I get to be the fun one because they did all the serious stuff,
Right.
With responsibilities,
Right.
And
I'm the rapper.
careers. Yeah, you're the rapper.
But also now, I almost feel like I did the law thing so I could just not be just the rapper. Like,
Yeah.
oh well, and when I was in law school, there was a lot of like more helping me because
Yeah.
I was doing something like hard.
Yeah.
And it is funny. I can feel like the attitude shift when I was like in law school and like graduating from like being a lawyer. People are like, oh my God, really?
Yeah.
Like, wow, that is great. Like more respect.
And that all kind of went away when you started doing more comedy.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm working in it like I'm working in it a little now, and I think I'm going to keep doing it. But I feel like I did it mainly to just be able to have a skill.
Yeah.
Older, where
Yeah.
people like would give me money. You know what I mean?
Well, and you could always kind of be a lawyer. You could be you could do it at your leisure if you
Right.
want. You could just kind of be like, well, I have this skill and I am certified, or you
Right.
have to re-up the bar or whatever
Yeah.
every couple of years or whatever.
So you just have to, but it's like something that people need. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Like someone's like, I need this.
Right. I need someone with specialized knowledge in this very specific thing.
Right. Comedy, no one's like, I need you to like talk about your testicles.
It's just something you want to do.
Right.
I want to get up on stage and talk about my testicles. You could try going up on stage and talking about law stuff and see how that goes.
Yeah, I haven't really had any funny.
No great intellectual property jokes.
I did write a book about me going to law school because I went older. So
What was that called?
it's not. I'm like kind of like in the process of finishing it.
Oh, it hasn't been published yet?
No, it hasn't been published. I'm still like.
Is it going to get published?
I'm trying to like do that.
What's the
now.
working title?
Do you really want to know?
It's called Do You Really Want to Know?
No,
that
no.
title is terrible.
No, I'll change it. Flightless Birds is the title I have right now.
Okay.
That has something to do with things that happen in it.
Like chickens? Are chickens flightless birds?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's certain birds that
Yeah.
like lost their ability to fly over like.
And now we just eat them.
right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of I talk about that in that because it's like what it is like it's not specifically about law school. Like I'm in law school in the book.
Yeah.
And it's not a memoir. It's based on my experiences, but it's like a novel.
So there is a main character based on you that's not you.
Yes.
So he's just like the better version of you.
Probably a little worse version.
But it's someone that Jared Leto would really be staring at.
Yeah.
Okay.
The main character's name is Jordan Catalano.
Okay.
Do you know who that is?
No.
It was Jared Leto's character
Oh.
in My So-Called Life.
You've got a fascination with this guy, I think.
No,
You have a bit of a crush. It's okay. He's a good-looking man.
No, he likes me.
Yeah. He's got those eyes. right?
He does have eyes,
Like,
yeah.
but they're like eyes. It's
He's
almost
also like he's.
it's almost like he has eyeliner on, but I don't think he actually does.
I think he does a
like
lot.
that. Does he have?
Well, when he
eyeliner?
got into his rock star phase, I think that's when he started doing the more androgynous thing. You know what's amazing? He's like 50 years old. He looks like unbelievable.
No, he's not.
Yeah, he's older than me.
Really?
Yeah,
I did not know.
he
that.
looks unbelievable.
I thought he was like 30s.
I know he looks really young.
He does.
I remember when I saw he was older than me. I was like, wow, really? But what was I? Oh, so like, yeah, the book, like Bukowski would do that. Like he
Okay.
would write books that are kind of based on him, but they're not him. So you can, I feel like it's good. You can kind of get away with more, you know,
Yeah.
like things that didn't really,
Yeah.
like the Nanny Diaries. Did you ever read that? They kind of
No.
did that. It was based on them being nanny. It was
Right.
two women, and they made it one character, and it was like kind of autobiographical.
Is your
but not.
character also going to be a stand-up comedian?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm like I wrote it, but I'm like going through. I actually need to find an editor now.
Yes. Like just for spell check.
That and just I need like a fresh pair of eyes. You know what I mean?
It's tough reading stuff.
It is.
And deciding if it's good or not. It's easier just to be like, this is all terrible. Do
It
it
is.
again.
Right?
It's so hard to take something and tell someone how to improve it. You know? It's easier to say, I don't like this, I'm not going to accept it. But it's so much harder to say, this has a good idea, but I need you to rewrite the entire thing so that it's good.
Have you ever written a book?
No.
Oh,
No.
okay.
I always want to. I like reading murder mysteries. So I
Okay.
want to write a murder mystery where the protagonist the protagonist is someone sort of like me, but I'm only making it based off of someone like me just because it seems easier to write a book where you're the protagonist because I know me. I don't know another person. So it's easier to make me the main character just because
Right.
I have a lot of knowledge in that one topic.
Yeah, that makes sense. I
Yeah.
think that's what a lot of people have to draw
I think
from.
a lot of people do that. So I wanted to do like a murder mystery. I really like silly. I grew up reading like Agatha Christie type stuff and watching Murder She Wrote.
Oh, really?
A lot of Murder She Wrote.
You're into
And-
that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, my mom's a big reader. My whole family's a bunch of readers. So like, we always she gives me books, and I'll recommend books, and we read.
Are you reading anything now?
Yeah, right now I'm reading the new Dan Brown origin book.
Okay.
It's so easy.
Did
to
he
read.
Did he write what's his big one?
The Da Vinci
Code.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
And then I'm reading something for my book club that's like 1,300 pages, and I'm never going to finish it in
man.
time. But reading like it's like a beach read. So it's
Right,
like reading
right.
books that you can just like, you can consume a 300-page book in like 2 days.
I like reading
You know,
short books.
It's like watching a movie. Some of these books,
Right.
it's like they read like you're just watching a movie. So
Yeah, it's almost like they're writing them to be a movie,
Yeah.
basically.
They're basically just
I
screenplays.
understand. I'm actually
Yeah.
reading The Shining right now.
oh, how's that?
It's good. I read it like 20 years ago. But I feel like I think I'm remembering when I read it young, I just skipped to like the scary parts that I knew from the movie because
Yeah.
there's a lot of setup in it. Like it's a lot of like nothing happening for
Yeah.
a long time. And
Yeah.
I really like that movie, and I'm kind of fascinated the differences.
Is this just with the adaptation? They cut a lot of stuff out.
Yeah, he changed it a lot, Kubrick, which I mean he had to because it wouldn't be. They even made Stephen King later made like a TV movie that's more
Yeah.
loyal to the book, and it's horrible.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know who said this, but I guess Kubrick understood it's different mediums, film
definitely.
and a book. Like, and he was like, I can't just. That's why most books, when they make them in the movies, are terrible because they try to just make the book, and he was like, I'm not going to do that. I saw an interview with him where he said that he really liked the book, but he like sat down with a screenwriter and they like tried to take the elements that they really liked from it,
Yeah.
and just incorporate that. So they're both really good on their own,
Yeah.
differently. So. And I'm just, I don't know. I'm just reading. It was like I was visiting my sister, and it was on their table,
Yeah.
and I was like, this seems easy. So it's kind of an easy book.
Is it long?
It is long.
Yeah.
It's like 700 pages.
That's long.
Yeah, and like 300 pages, nothing really like it doesn't even get going.
And it's like you have to carry that around.
Yeah, but it's weird. I think I like reading helps me pass the time. You know what I mean? Like it keeps me off of like social media and stuff now.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, like so I feel like I'm trying to find any like positive distraction.
That's good.
Yeah, it's better than like looking at porn or something.
Is it? No.
Depends on what you're reading.
So Last Exit to Brooklyn.
Yes.
Is your podcast.
Yeah.
Adventures in Comedy is your movie.
Uh-huh.
You're up at what's your most recent show that you want to tell people to go to?
I think I'm doing Broadway on Saturday, and I'm doing one on Friday, but at this place, the Black Cat down in the Village. But people should go to Broadway. It's probably better.
Okay. And do you have a website?
I don't have a website anymore, but you can go to my like Facebook and Twitter and stuff. I got rid of my website because I just felt like there were so many other things.
Too many things.
There's something on Vimeo that I have a bunch of videos on.
Tom doesn't have time for all this bullshit website stuff.
That's the closest thing I have to a website, the Vimeo site.
Okay.
Tom McCaffrey of Vimeo.
Tom McCaffrey video. You can watch all of his videos. And maybe he's still on Hulu.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm on Hulu with the Coming to the Stage TV show that they did.
Okay.
So check that out. I was just watching that.
Well, check it all out. Tom McCaffrey, thanks for being on Talkward.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm Marty Dundix, Editor-in-Chief of Weekly Humorist Magazine. Check us out at weeklyhumorist.com. Check out the next Guaranteed Delivery comedy show, which is going to be at the Mailroom on October 3rd. It is sponsored by Swill, the alcohol liquor store in your pocket. Go to getswill.com and use code FUNNY5 for $5 off your first order. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.